5 years ago. I was 38 when life completely blindsided me. I've been in retail management for almost 20 years, late nights, weekends, holidays, believing that if I just worked hard enough, I'd always be safe. I was the provider, the steady guy, the one who kept his family secure. Then COVID hit, and when the dust settled, the wreckage was brutal. The U.S. economy tanked. By April 2020, unemployment had exploded to nearly 15%, the highest we'd seen since the Great Depression. Whole industries collapsed. Millions of people got let go overnight, and I was one of them. I'll never forget that day. An email popped up on my screen. Store closure notice. My eyes blurred as I read the words. The store you manage will be closing permanently. Your position has been terminated. My stomach dropped. 15 plus years of my life, gone in a few sentences. I just sat there at my desk, frozen, my hands shaking, my chest so tight it felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Driving home that evening, the streets felt empty, like the whole world had stopped breathing. My wife and kids were waiting at the door, smiling, expecting me to walk in like always. I forced a smile back, but inside I was breaking, and in my head, this one thought kept repeating. I gave everything, and it still wasn't enough. The weeks that followed, they almost broke me. Nights awake at 3 a.m, heart racing, scrolling through job sites that had nothing, days pacing the living room, snapping at my kids for no reason, avoiding my wife's eyes because I felt ashamed, bills piling up, confidence is draining out of me. And if you've ever lost a job, really lost it, in the middle of an economy that's collapsing around you, you know that feeling. It's not just unemployment, it's humiliating. It's carrying this heavy, invisible weight on your chest that makes every breath feel harder. At 38, I honestly thought my story was over. But here's the thing, that was just the beginning. Because in the rubble of that collapse, I found 10 tools that changed everything. Tools that helped me calm the storm in my head, claw my way out of despair, and eventually land a job that wasn't just better, it was right for me. And that's what I share here. On The Truth MD, no sugarcoating, no fake positivity, just real talk, real struggle, and the science that actually works. If any part of this hits home for you, stick around. And if my story connects with yours, consider supporting the channel so we can keep building a community where nobody has to walk through the dark alone. Those weeks after losing my job, man, I was a mess. I was angry, embarrassed, and stressed out of my mind. And the truth is, the people I love the most, my wife and kids, they were catching the worst of it. I remember this one night. Bills spread all over the kitchen table. I'm sitting there, head pounding, chest tight like somebody's got a fist around my lungs. My wife walks over, real gentle, and asks, "Are you okay?" And something in me just snapped. It felt like glass shattering inside my chest. The words were right there, sharp as knives. Of course I'm not okay. Look at me, I lost everything. I wanted to spit those words out, to just unload all that rage and shame onto her. But right then, something strange happened. I remembered this random article I'd read a few nights earlier, at like 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. I'd been doom scrolling on my phone, desperate to understand why I felt so out of control. And there it was, this brain scientist, Dr. Jill Bolte-Taylor, talking about what she called the 90-second rule. She said when a strong emotion hits you, your body floods with chemicals, but those chemicals burn out in about 90 seconds, unless you keep feeding them with your thoughts. And for some reason, that stuck with me. So in that moment, instead of blowing up at my wife, I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and started counting in my head. 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 90. And here's the crazy part. By the time I hit 90, the wildfire in my chest had cooled down. My jaw was unclenched. My hands stopped shaking. The words I wanted to throw at her, they just weren't there anymore. Instead, I looked at her and said softly, "I'm trying." That night, I realized something huge. I don't have to be at the mercy of my emotions. I can ride the wave instead of letting it crash me into the people I love. That's what the 90-second rule did for me. It didn't fix the bills on the table. It didn't magically give me a job back, but it gave me space. Space to not make things worse. Space to choose something different. And when you're drowning in stress, sometimes 90 seconds is all you need to save a relationship, or even save yourself. Now here's the thing I learned after the 90-second rule. Calming down your body is one thing, but the hardest part, it's your mind. Because even when my chest wasn't on fire anymore, my thoughts were brutal. Every morning, I woke up with the same loop in my head. You failed. You weren't good enough. If you had been better, they would have kept you. And here's what I found out later. Psychologists say our brains are basically prediction machines. They're always filling in the blanks, writing stories about why things happen. But those stories aren't always true. They're just stories. That's where cognitive reframing comes in. It's a tool therapists have been teaching for decades. The American Psychological Association defines it really simply: changing the way you think about a situation so it changes how you feel about it. Here's how I picture it. Imagine looking through a dirty window. Everything outside looks gloomy, hopeless, like a storm's never gonna end. But the dirt isn't the world. It's just on the glass. Clean the window, and suddenly you see the same world, just clearer. That's what reframing did for me. My dirty window was this: I lost my job because I wasn't good enough. Through that frame, everything looked like shame. But when I wiped the glass clean, I saw a different frame. The store closed because the whole economy collapsed. It wasn't about me. This door closed, but maybe another one's out there. The facts didn't change. I was still unemployed, but the weight on my chest, it loosened. And you know what? You've done this before without even realizing it. Picture this. You text a friend and they don't respond. The first story your brain writes is, "They're ignoring me. They don't care." And suddenly you're spiraling. But if you reframe it, "They're probably busy. Maybe they'll text back tomorrow." Same exact situation, but you feel completely different. That's the power of reframing. It doesn't magically pay the bills, but it gives you back your fight. Because when you change the story, you tell yourself, you change whether you stay stuck or you move forward. Reframing helped me change the story in my head, but let's be honest, some nights that still wasn't enough. Because when anxiety hits at 2 in the morning, when your chest is tight and your mind won't shut off, logic alone can't save you. You need something you can grab onto at that moment. That's when it hit me. We all keep a first aid kit in the house, right? Band-aids, painkillers, maybe some Neosporin. We prepare for cuts and scrapes we might get, but nobody ever tells you to prepare for the emotional wounds you will get. So I built my own emotional first aid kit. Just simple things that could keep me from sliding all the way down when the spiral started. For me, it looked like this. A playlist of soft acoustic songs I could throw on when my brain was racing. A cup of lavender tea, something about that smell told my body, "Hey, it's okay. You're safe." A sticky note on my mirror that read, "Gary, you got through Mom's illness. You'll get through this too." And even a pre-written text on my phone to my best friend, "Hey man, I'm not okay today. Can you talk?" So I didn't have to figure out what to say in the middle of a breakdown. None of these things fixed my problems, but they kept me from spiraling further. They gave me just enough space to breathe, to ride out the wave. And the big lesson, you don't wait until your house is on fire to go buy a fire extinguisher. You get it beforehand. Emotional tools work the same way. You build your kit when you're calm, so it's there when the storm hits. That kit didn't just calm me down, it reminded me I wasn't alone. Every time the wave came, I had something to reach for, and that was enough to keep me afloat until I could swim again. Even with my emotional first aid kit, nights were still brutal. Once the house went quiet, my brain got loud. At 2 a.m., I'd be stuck on repeat, replaying that email over and over. Your store is closing. Your position has been terminated. Like a broken record I couldn't turn off. One night, lying there again, something in me finally broke. I thought, I can't keep living like this. I've got to try something different. That's when I remembered a simple technique I'd read about. They called it 5-3-1. So I gave it a shot, and when I actually did it, something shifted. Instead of lying awake for hours, trapped in the nightmare, I drifted off. For the first time in weeks, I really slept. And when I opened my eyes the next morning, it wasn't just relief. It felt like I was having a quiet conversation with myself. Wait, you actually slept? Yeah. See, you're not broken after all. That tiny win gave me hope. And here's how the method worked. Fine. I named 5 things I could see in the room: the lamp, the dresser, the crack in the ceiling paint, the glass of water on my nightstand, the shadow of the curtain. Doing that forced my brain to switch into the visual part of my cortex. 3. Then I moved. Even just sitting up, swinging my legs off the bed, walking into the kitchen for a drink of water. Physical movement breaks the loop. What? And finally, I chose one small action. Sometimes it was writing down apply for one job tomorrow. Other times it was laying out my running shoes for the morning. That tiny step told my brain, we're not stuck, we're moving. And here's the image that made it click for me. Your mind is like water. If you dam it up, it floods. But if you give it a channel, it flows. The 5-3-1 method gave my thoughts a channel. That's what turned one sleepless night into my first real rest in weeks. And that rest wasn't just sleep, it was proof. Proof that even a simple shift can give you back a piece of control. And if I could calm my mind for one night, maybe I could rebuild my life one step at a time. Getting that first real night of sleep gave me hope. But even with a little rest, I still had another enemy to face: the voice in my head. You know that voice. The one that wakes you up at 6 in the morning and whispers, you can't handle this. You're done. You're never gonna crawl out of this hole. It was brutal. And the worst part, it sounded exactly like me. One morning, after sending out what felt like my 100th job application and still not getting a single reply, that voice came back hard. See, nobody wants you. You're washed up. You're done. And honestly, I almost believed it. But then I tried something different. Instead of saying, I can't do this, I switched it up. Gary, this silence doesn't mean you're worthless. It just means the right door hasn't opened yet. You've been through worse. You'll push through this too. And here's the crazy part, it actually worked. Later, I found out there's real science behind it. Psychologists like Ethan Kross at the University of Michigan studied this thing called third-person self-talk. When you talk to yourself using your name instead of I, your brain creates just enough distance to cool down the emotions. Brain scans even show it turns down the volume in the amygdala, that's the fear center, and switches on the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that helps you think straight. In plain English, when you say, I can't handle this, you're stuck inside the storm. But when you say, Gary can handle this, it's like stepping outside the storm long enough to see the path forward. And honestly, it made me feel less alone. Like I wasn't just beating myself up anymore, I was coaching myself through it. Because let's be real, we're cruel to ourselves in ways we'd never be to anyone else. If my buddy forgot his keys, I'd say, don't worry. Man, happens to everybody. But when I forget mine, my brain goes, nice job, genius. You've ruined your whole life. That's why this trick hits so hard. Just swapping I for Gary turned my inner critic into a teammate. Instead of drowning, I felt like I had somebody in my corner saying, keep going, you're stronger than you think. And sometimes I even made it funny. Like when I burned my toast one morning, instead of cursing, I just laughed and said out loud, "Well done, Chef Gary." Nailed it again. That little humor. It took the edge off. Look, third-person self-talk didn't magically fix my life, but it gave me breathing room. It turned my head from an echo chamber of negativity into a place where I could finally hear encouragement, even if it was just my own voice. Talking to myself in the third person gave me some breathing room. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was drowning. And then something incredible happened. I actually got a call back. A company wanted to interview me. Man, when I hung up the phone, I felt this rush of hope. I pictured myself landing the job, walking into work again. Steady paycheck. My kids seeing me confident instead of defeated. For the first time since the layoff, I could actually see a future. But here's where it got tricky. Because as exciting as that vision was, my brain immediately started throwing up roadblocks. What if you bomb the interview? You don't have the right skills anymore. You're too rusty. And honestly, I almost let those doubts steal my momentum. That's when I learned about something psychologists call mental contrasting. Dr. Gabriele Oettingen studied this for years, and her research showed that positive thinking by itself can actually backfire. Why? Because imagining success feels so good. Your brain thinks you've already made it, so your motivation drops. But when you combine the dream and the obstacles, you get the power of both hope and reality. It's like looking at a mountain. The peak inspires you, but the rocks and cliffs tell you where to put your feet. So I tried it. I wrote down the outcome I wanted. Gary lands the job. Steady income. Confidence back. Then I listed the biggest obstacles. Fear of interviews. Missing skills. And here's where the magic happened. I created little if-then plans. If I feel discouraged learning a new skill, I'll just study for 15 minutes, then take a break. If I bomb an interview, I'll write down one thing to improve for next time instead of beating myself up. And suddenly, instead of being paralyzed by fear, I had a playbook. Science backs this up too. Studies show that when people use mental contrasting with if-then plans, they're far more likely to follow through, whether it's exercising, eating healthy, or chasing a new job. It gives your brain a GPS instead of just a dream. For me, it turned hope into something solid. It wasn't just Gary might get a new life. It was Gary has a map, and step by step, he's walking it. Those little if-then plans gave me direction. I walked into that first interview, nervous as hell, but at least I had a game plan. But here's what nobody tells you. Even with hope and preparation, it doesn't just click overnight. I had interviews where I walked out thinking, that's it, I nailed it. And then, nothing. Weeks of waiting, no call back. Other times, the rejection email hit my inbox before I even had time to get my hopes up. And every single time, that old voice in my head wanted to creep back in. See, nobody wants you. You're done. That's when I came across something Admiral Jim Stockdale talked about after surviving 7 years as a prisoner of war. He called it the Stockdale Paradox, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Here's what it means. Faith, I will prevail. I will find a job. I will rebuild my life. Truth. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. There's no magic fix. And holding both at the same time, that's where the power is. Because here's the trap. If all you've got is blind optimism, I'll be hired by next week. No problem then. Every rejection crushes you. But if all you've got is brutal reality, this will never work. You quit before you even try. The Stockdale Paradox is like carrying a torch through a long tunnel. The light says, keep going. There's an end to this. The darkness reminds you, it's a long walk, so pace yourself. For me, it looked like this. I'd walk out of an interview buzzing, already picturing myself back in an office coffee mug on my desk, my kids proud to see me working again. That was the faith. But then I'd remind myself, Gary, this company might not call back, and that's okay. Another door will open. That was the truth. I remember one night sitting at the kitchen table, staring at yet another rejection email. My first instinct was to slam the laptop shut and spiral, but instead, I told myself, Faith, you will find a job. Truth, today isn't that day. Tomorrow, you try again. And weirdly enough, that balance kept me steady, not crushed by disappointment, not floating in fantasy, just grounded and still moving forward. Holding on to both faith and truth kept me steady, but I realized something else. I couldn't just grab these tools here and there whenever I remembered. That was like patching leaks on a sinking boat. What I needed was a whole new system, almost like an operating system for my life. Think about it. Your phone runs because all the apps work under the same OS. Without it, crashed city. My mind needed the same upgrade. So, little by little, I built what I call my personal resilience system. Nothing fancy, but it gave me structure. Every morning, I'd start with 4 to 7, 8, breathing in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8, to ground myself before the day took over. When anger hit, I leaned on the 90-second rule, riding out the wave instead of lashing out at the people I love. When stress piled up, I'd open my emotional first aid kit, maybe lavender tea, maybe that acoustic playlist, or sometimes just shooting a text to a friend. When my brain spun out at 2A, I used 5 to 3 to 1, giving my thoughts a channel instead of letting them flood me. And once a week, no matter how hectic life got, I made time to connect with friends, even just a call or a quick coffee. Because isolation, that's gasoline on the fire. Connection is the water. Over time, this became my new routine. And the biggest shift, I stopped living in constant reaction mode. Instead of emotions blindsiding me, I had tools ready. Instead of spiraling, I had steps. It felt like upgrading from a beat-up old operating system full of bugs to a smooth new one that actually works. Life didn't suddenly get easy, but I sure as hell got stronger. I wasn't just hanging on by a thread anymore. I was standing on solid ground again. And hey, if you've been listening and thinking, man, I need something like that, why not give it a shot? Don't try to overhaul your whole life at once. Just pick one tool, maybe the 90-second rule, maybe 5-3-1, and practice it for a week. See what happens. Kick the tires, then drop it in the comments. Which tool are you going to try first? I'd love to hear your story, because you never know, your step forward might be the lifeline someone else needs. 5 months. That's how long it took. 5 months of eating rejection for breakfast, lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, and giving myself pep talks in the bathroom mirror just to make it through the day. 5 months of breathing through panic, counting to 90 when I wanted to blow up, and dragging myself forward one baby step at a time. Then came that interview. I walked into the lobby in a freshly pressed suit, notebook in hand, heart pounding but steady, and for the first time in months, I wasn't desperate. I wasn't begging someone to give me a shot. I knew my worth. The hiring manager threw some tough questions my way, the kind that would have sent me into a tailspin before. But this time, I slowed my breathing, answered clearly, even cracked a joke that made him laugh. I left that building feeling something I hadn't felt in forever. Confidence. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail because honestly, by that point, I was used to bad news. But something in me said, pick it up. Gary, we'd like to offer you the position. I swear. I almost dropped the phone. My knees went weak, and I had to sit down at the kitchen table. And this wasn't just any gig. I'd done my homework. This was a bigger, fast-growing logistics company with real resources, mentorship programs, and benefits I never thought I'd see. Truth be told, when I applied, I figured, yeah, right, like they'd ever hire me. But here I was, staring at an offer that blew every expectation out of the water. Higher pay, better culture, a clear career path, everything I'd dreamed about at my old job, and then some. That night, I told my wife, and she whispered, "Is it a good fit?" I felt tears in my eyes and said, "It's not just a job, It's the right job, better than I ever hoped for. And right there, I realized something huge. I hadn't just landed a new job. I'd walked through fire and come out tougher, calmer, and sharper than I'd ever been. I didn't just get hired, I got myself back. I'll never forget my first morning walking into that new office, sunlight pouring through the windows, the low hum of a team already buzzing with energy, and me, standing there in a crisp shirt, finally letting out a breath I'd been holding for months. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe, not just because I had a job again, but because I'd built something inside myself that no layoff, no crisis, could ever take away. So if you're listening to this and you're stuck in that dark place right now, maybe you just lost your job. Maybe you're going through a breakup. Maybe you're fighting through health issues. I need you to hear me. This is not the end of your story. Your emotions might feel like they're about to drown you, but they're just waves, 90-second waves, like Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor taught us. You can ride them. You can build your own emotional first aid kit, talk to yourself like you would a friend, and piece together your own resilient system. I thought losing my job was rock bottom, but it turned out to be the start of something better, a career that fits me, a stronger version of me, and a deeper understanding of what I'm capable of. And if I could crawl out of that hole, I promise you, so can you. If this story hit home for you, stick around, maybe subscribe, maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. That's how we grow this space, this little corner of the internet where nobody has to walk through the dark alone. This is The Truth MD, and trust me, we're just getting started.